Subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who actually cares about real wartime history, and leave a comment telling me which conflict era you want covered next, because what we're getting into now is not the polished, heroic version of World War II survival you see in museums. This is the quiet, unspoken layer of wartime living that soldiers relied on daily but rarely documented. Not because it was unimportant, but because it was too ordinary, too grim, or too personal. If you're serious about history and survival, this matters. World War II forced millions of ordinary men into environments where doctrine failed, and improvisation meant the difference between living and dying. Manuals told them how to fight, but survival came from items they never wrote letters home about. These were not medals or weapons. These were objects passed hand to hand, modified in trenches, hidden in packs, and used when no officer was watching. What follows is not myth or nostalgia. It's practical wartime reality. Soldiers depended on foot care items more than they ever admitted. Foot survival was life survival in World War II. Yet soldiers almost never spoke openly about how much time and effort went into protecting their feet. Extra socks, foot powder, grease, and improvised drying routines mattered more than many issued weapons. Trench foot and frostbite crippled entire units long before combat did. Soldiers learned quickly that neglecting feet meant evacuation or death. Practical application today is straightforward. In cold or wet environments, rotating socks, drying feet whenever possible, and applying protective barriers like grease or wax can prevent long-term injury. Modern survivalists still use the same logic. The technology changed, but the principle did not. Keep your feet functional and you remain mobile. Lose that, and the fight is already over. Soldiers, quietly relied on scavenged civilian containers for water and food. Issued canteens were just not enough. They scavenged glass bottles, enamel cups, tin containers, and even bits of enemy equipment to store water, soup, or melted snow. Official gear was standardized, of course, but reality demanded a bit of flexibility. These containers were hidden away in packs or coats, often insulated with cloth to prevent freezing or, making any noise. This lesson, interestingly, applies directly to modern survival planning. Never rely on a single container. Redundancy and improvisation, they really do matter. Any durable vessel can become absolutely critical when your primary gear fails. World War II soldiers understood, perhaps better than most, that water access was unpredictable, and adaptability was, quite simply, survival. Soldiers used personal sewing kits as both medical and repair tools. The humble sewing kit, honestly, was one of the most quietly valuable survival items in a soldier's possession. Buttons, thread, needles and scraps of cloth repaired uniforms, sealed wounds in emergencies, reinforced boots, and even, at times, modified equipment. Soldiers rarely spoke about this because, it wasn't exactly heroic, but it kept them operational. Soldiers carried improvised fire starters beyond issued matches. Matches were issued, but they ran out quickly and failed in wet conditions. Soldiers carried cigarette lighters, flints, magnesium scraps, or homemade fire-starting kits hidden in waterproof wrappings. Fire meant warmth, cooked food, sterilization, and morale. Losing the ability to make fire meant vulnerability. Today, relying on a single fire-starting method is a mistake. The World War II lesson is redundancy and weatherproofing. Fire tools should be distributed across your gear and protected from moisture. Survival is not about convenience. It is about ensuring capability under failure. Soldiers depended on personal eating tools they modified themselves. Mess kits were issued, but many soldiers reshaped spoons, cut down handles, drilled holes, or carried personal knives adapted for eating, cutting, and small repairs. These tools were rarely discussed because they were seen as trivial, yet they were used multiple times daily. Soldiers used small religious or personal items as psychological survival tools. Prayer cards, photos, charms, and letters were not superstition. They were grounding tools. In prolonged stress, mental stability kept soldiers alert and functional. These items were hidden, protected, and rarely spoken about, but their importance was real. Survival is psychological as much as physical. Modern practitioners should acknowledge this openly. Anchors that maintain morale, focus, and identity are not weaknesses. They are force multipliers. World War II soldiers understood that breaking mentally was often more dangerous than hunger. Soldiers quietly modified their clothing for concealment and warmth. Uniforms were altered constantly. Linings were stuffed with paper, cloth, or straw. Buttons were removed to prevent noise. Colours were darkened with mud or dye. These changes were unofficial and rarely documented, yet they dramatically improved survivability. This translates directly to modern fieldcraft. Clothing should be adaptable, quiet, layered, and suited to environment rather than appearance. World War II soldiers survived by ignoring parade ground standards in favour of practical reality. World War II survival was not about grand strategy alone. It was about small daily decisions made by individuals who learned quickly that comfort, maintenance and adaptability kept them alive longer than bravado ever could. These items were never spoken about because they were not glamorous, but they were foundational. If this breakdown added something new to your understanding of wartime survival, subscribe to the channel, share this with fellow historians and survivalists, and leave a comment with the next topic you want explored. This channel exists to preserve the lessons that history forgot to emphasize, and your support keeps that work alive.